So, in the last session, we discussed social media and governance. In this session, we focus a bit on the issue of public communications, sometimes known also as public relations. Now, public communications is a field built on ideas and images, persuasion and information, strategy and tactics. The idea here is to strategically impart a message. Now, this is very important, particularly for government, because it must constantly communicate with the public, telling the public what it intends to do, how it intends to do it, in order to get public support for its actions and policies. Here is an area where social media, again, has transformed significantly. For instance, the tools of the trade used to be fax machines, which you used to send out press releases. And on top of PR men's desks are Rolodexes. You don't see them anymore. Later on, it became personal digital assistants. Now, most public relations practitioners carry smartphones. So, in the recent past, public communications was defined as the communication of ideas to the broader public. Again, the image is very one way, from a sender to a general public, much like a broadcast mode. Today, government communications means a continuous dialogue with all interested parties, encompassing a broader range of skills and techniques than those associated with media relations. Now, how did this happen? From communication of ideas to a broader public to a continuous dialogue with all interested parties? Well, we have to go back again to the characteristics of social media and how it is different from traditional media. So let's compare and contrast these two in terms of 5 components or 5 issues. Its reach, accessibility, usability, recency, and permanence. Now, traditional media and social media are both able to reach a global audience, except that they do so differently, and yet the effect is still the same. Both are able to reach a global audience. Now, accessibility is another issue, of course. In terms of the ownership of production, traditional media is either owned by big corporations or government. On the other hand, social media is available to anyone at little cost. In terms of usability, you need specialized skills and training in production in traditional media, while almost anyone can operate the means of production in social media. In terms of recency, time lag can belong in traditional media. For instance, if it's a newspaper, you have to wait for the following day. If it's broadcast TV, sometimes you have to wait for the evening news or the late evening news. Even if they have breaking news, sometimes it's on top of the hour. Compare that to social media, where it's real-time and instantaneous. You get reports as it happens. And finally, on the issue of permanence, in traditional media, it is difficult to alter the content. Once it is published in a newspaper, that's it. You wait the following day to correct it. Once it comes out of broadcast TV, again, you have to wait for a significant hour of time before you could update it. Social media, on the other hand, can be altered almost instantaneously. The ability to update is almost instantaneous. So this is the reason why social media has allowed for government communications or public relations to become a continuous dialogue. The traditional media is better at broadcasting mode, whereas the social media is best at constant dialogue and updating the citizen. Now let's go to an example of social media and public communications, and how that is changing the way government communicate with its public. In 2013, Canada's Minister of Finance presented the budget to Parliament in person and with social media. Okay? So they used Twitter and the hashtag at EAP13 to provide context and links to relevant materials. They also uploaded an introductory video on the budget on YouTube. And then the speech itself was live streamed with graphics and videos. So now it's very different. Before, all the Minister of Finance has to do is to make a speech before Parliament, and that's it. Today, we have these other tools that we could use, and has been used, in order to make the budget presentation more accessible to more people and a bit more interesting than the traditional boring speeches that sometimes ministers make. Now, social media is not just about making ministerial speech more exciting or more accessible. What is interesting about social media is that it also allows civil servants to engage in a dialogue with citizens or other stakeholders. Now, this cut both ways. This is great because civil servants are able to reach out directly to people and could hear their view. But on the other hand, it's also fraught with danger because civil servants might misspeak and then it can create confusion, if not downright anger from citizens and other stakeholders. So it's best usually to have rules, guidance for civil servants when they go online or when they do social media. And we will discuss that later on when we deal with social media policy. But here what we want to stress is the idea that they have to be prepared to deal with the public using social media. And the UK government has a very interesting social media engagement cycle for its civil servants. And let's spend some time on that, because I think something that is where we could learn a thing or two in terms about social media and civil servants. In the engagement cycle of the UK, they have 6 steps that civil servants should know about. Or in some sense, these are 6 steps that you could take. And perhaps it's best to take them in the order that is given. So the first step is that you should listen or read the conversations on your own policy area. Right? Focus first on what you're doing. If you are in policy making in a specific policy area, then go to social media sites that discusses those and not other areas. Second, you start asking questions around your own policy area and only answer direct responses. Right? So, but as you go on, as you get more used to this, you can start answering questions aimed at you, not relating to your original questions. So, first is just listen. Second is just answer areas directly related, directly ask, right? And third, you could start responding to questions not relating to your original question. The fourth stage is you could start retweeting interesting information relating to your policy area. So first you listen, then you respond, then you could retweet. The fifth stage is, and here you are presumably far more comfortable with social media, is you get involved in wider discussions. So you're not just limited as initially in your own policy area, but now you can discuss wider policy issues. And finally, the sixth, you could use social media to chat socially to people you've met in your business environment. So you could see it in terms of concentric circles, or you could see it in terms of steps that you take. But the idea is to get your feet wet first before you dive. And so you just start to listen. You ask questions and respond directly to questions. Then you can respond to questions not originally asked of you. Then you could retweet. Then you could involve in wider discussions. And finally, you could chat socially to people in your business environment. So idea here is slow by slow, which means don't rush, learn the ropes first before you soar. Now, let's end with what are the key considerations that you should ask if you want to use social media in your communications. The first question that you have to answer is, what is your objective? How does social media use support your organization's mission and overall communication strategy? The second question is privacy and security. What are the key issues and concerns that you have to worry about when you engage in social media? The third concern is transparency and collaboration. How can social media tools create a more coordinated environment? Number 4 is engaging the public. How has social media changed the way government engages with its citizens? Or how will it change the way you deal with your stakeholders? And number 5, analytics and metrics. How do you ensure accurate, targeted performance analysis? Right? So these are the 5 questions that all government officials must ask and answer before they use social media for public communications.